Hey guys, how's it going? Back again here for another video update. I wanted to touch on the latest Kickstarter announcement that came out. So something that occurred to me recently is that these announcements, I think, are only going to, if I understand correctly, they're only going to Backstarter pledgers. So this is kind of interesting information for those maybe newer to the game that weren't able to back it, maybe aren't seeing this type of content. I am posting it on the Sorcery Contested Realm Facebook page. I posted this image that you're seeing right here. So this is another element. I'm going to get into some of the historical development of the game. This is about the packaging. So it's kind of, I don't know if it tickled the fancy of every viewer here, but something I find interesting because it gets to the development of the game, like the sample cards, some of the images we've seen over time through the Discord and various platforms, and just talking to folks in the community. This is another piece of that. So this may have been overlooked. I haven't heard anybody talk about this yet, but this is what I guess the latest instantiation of what the packaging might look like. I believe this is likely a booster box. I don't recall if the email said that this was final or not, but I'll get into this in a moment. But I wanted to kind of talk about this topic a little bit, look at how it compares to other games like Alpha Magic and Flesh and Blood maybe is another more modern comparison point from the last few years, and just speak to kind of like the company, the founders' creativity, the marketing messaging, and why I think this is a vast improvement. I think in some of the early interviews with Eric, he's asked like, "What is the game about?" Right, and you hear pieces of it anecdotally, but there wasn't that crisp message of this is what Sorcery is all about. And I think that is getting refined. It has been refined over the months and over the past, I guess, year or two since they've come more public with the game release and updates, and this is a real nice, crisp message that they printed here on the box. But before I get into that detail, for context, let's take a look at some other games and their history. So going all the way back to Magic Alpha, and this is the box for the Magic starter decks. I was looking for a booster box. I didn't find it readily available and good enough resolution to really read what it said, but it looked like it was something comparable, and this is a little more long-winded. Personally, I prefer like a shorter, crisp one or two sentences that really encapsulates what this game is all about, and what the intended player experience would be, or collector experience if you invest in this game or buy some of the products. I imagine this was longer, and maybe that was necessary in the early days because Magic was really the first breakthrough TCG. So here you go. I'll read this in case you can't see it. Magic the Gathering is the first in the Deckmaster series of collectible trading card games from Wizards of the Coast, featuring 300 different cards. This is a fantasy game of epic proportions. Some cards are, trying to read this, fairly common, some uncommon, and some very rare. Every player has their own personal deck. Challenge your friends, build a reputation, or participate in tournament play. There's always more for you to discover in Magic the Gathering, so remember, your opponent is never defeated until the last life point has been taken. So a lot to unpack in there. It speaks to kind of like what the game experience is all about. The set size, 300 different cards, fantasy game, epic proportions. So this is like a big, flavorful, epic type of game experience. Speaks to the game rarity, some common, some uncommon, some rare. It's deck-centric. Every player has their own personal deck. You kind of got to describe what the game's about in this early era when TCGs weren't commonplace. And then kind of like a flavorful finish, right? It's never over until you take the last life point. So it gets into the little bit of the end game of how this game is played. And then you have some typical stuff, like on top of the box, you have, let me zoom back out, you have an image of the card back itself, a couple iconic images, or what have become iconic now from some of the early alpha cards with the Minotaur and the Crusade card, and then their logo prominently featured. So this is what you see on the side. I think the top pops up, so you kind of see the art and the card back prominently displayed. So keep some of those elements in mind. And then we'll go to Flesh and Blood as a more recent example. This is the Alpha Welcome to Wraith box. So the legend begins, right? So it's an introduction to the game, just beginning. Brute, Guardian, Ninja, Warrior. So those are your 4 hero options in the game's debut. And then here's your slogan. Only a true hero can rise above the rest. What will you become in your quest for greatness? And then here you have some details about the game. This is Flesh and Blood. That's the game name. Welcome to Wraith is the set name, and then the booster box with some of its contents. I think this, if I remember correctly, some of this may be on the side of the sorcery box as well. That'll be interesting to see. Number of booster packs. And actually, yes, I know that is on there because someone asked that question when they added 3 packs to the booster box. Eric mentioned he was going to have to go change the marketing and the form factor and template for the box to say 39 packs instead of 36. So you'll have that in different parts of the game. Here you have the Alpha Print logo, so you know it's Alpha, and that changed to Unlimited and future released. And then this is what the company's all about: designed for competitive play by gamers for gamers. Right, so there's that nature of competitiveness, just like Magic had. So this is marketed to be a competitive TCG. Um, the slogan has some flavor about what it's all about, and here you go. The legend begins. Legend Story Studios. So that's kind of a play on their company name. All right, so now let's go to the Sorcery box, and I'll compare to the latest release. This is it, and this has been refined some. I'm going to show some examples that we saw in the past of what this used to be like, and you know what? Maybe I'll actually start there and build to the final version. Um, so if I go back, let's see. I was able. What's the earliest that I have? Let's go back to May 2021. This image was released, and here you have some similar elements, right? Like the game logo prominently featured. Eric's Curiosa is the company name, and then the logo Sorcery Contested Realm. And then this whole front piece that pops up, and you see 5 cards prominently featured because you know something super important and iconic about this game, or just magical about it, is how great the artwork is. The design of the cards themselves are very striking and appealing. So that's beautiful marketing right there. And then on the front of the box, as this is, you can imagine this propped up on the shelf. Eric had mentioned that he envisioned this being up on shelves, opened in this fashion, so you could kind of see the logo, the company name, some of the cards, what they're all about. That gives you some preview of the artwork, but also some of the game mechanics. If you just take a look at that, you're like, okay, this card has a grid-centric effect, so that captures that this is a grid-based game. Different. That's a differentiator from some others, and what makes it a bit unique. And then the type line text. So, you got the rarities embedded there. Someone new to the game may pick up on that. Several different artists represented, and these are very iconic artists selected here. You have Dan Seagrave, who's big in the heavy metal album cover scene. Tony Sublo from Magic and Dungeons and Dragons. Melissa Benson from Alpha Magic. Francesca Berald, who did the map art for the box background. And the card pack, this design for the booster packs, and Jussie Pilkus, who just creates incredible art. It just jumps out, captures your attention. Here you have a Melissa Benson artwork, and then Matthias Frisk, who also does album covers, and is actually has mentioned in an interview I did with him that he is inspired by Dan Seagrave, one of his early artistic inspirations. So you have some synergy there, and some similar details, right? This is the origin, it's first edition, and a number of booster boxes, which went from 36 to now 39. Okay, so again, that's from May 2021. And then a little later on in October, we saw something similar. This is the same thing. It just wanted to show this because it shows the top flap down, So again, it's designed such that in the form factor and templating, it can prop up like this to sit on a store shelf or, display at home. A lot of people like to display their product at home as well on shelves. Okay, so then also in October, Eric showed what was the design at the time for all the different aspects. So you have the 2 sides of the box. You get another piece of artwork, nicely framed here. And, I noticed in I guess I forgot about this because I thought this was new on the back. Eric has Eric's Curiosa card is now on the back. And that's a very important card in the game, and I think we're expecting to see a curio of the sketch art for that in the alpha set, so that's going to be a very special and important card. But again, you see kind of the different sides. First edition probably featured there, so that's how you know if there's going to be a beta or revised release follow-up. You'll know how to differentiate that. The artwork we saw previously, and then let's see if I can make this out. The resolution's not great, but it says, battle to assert your dominance over the realm. As you expand your territory, Can't make out that word. Something powerful minions and cast elemental spells to disrupt, confound, and destroy your opponent. It's a little difficult to make out. And then created by Eric Olofsson and Nicholas Reynolds. So there you go. You have a little quick summary of what the game's all about. And then I want to jump to the latest version. And again, this may be the final version of what we can expect to see. What I had just mentioned here, this is the Eric's Curiosa card in full art by Francesca Berald. And again, she did all of this box design with the map work and the pack cover art. So that's really nice. She also did this Sorcery card. Something interesting about that is when Eric showed the old version with the Dan Seagrave art in the middle, I recommended to him that maybe we should have an elemental avatar there or some kind of avatar there. Actually, I think I recommended this card specifically because it's called Sorcerer, which matches the name of the game, and it just feels like Sorcery, right? Sorcery Contested Realm. You have a sorcerer on the front and center, and that's the first thing you see. So it's kind of cool. He liked the suggestion and he changed it, and I think maybe that will stay through to the final version, which is pretty cool. It's my minor contribution to the development of the game in a way. So again, this whole piece would pop up, and these are the cards you would see. You still have a great sampling and representation. You still got Dan Seagrave here, the great old one. It's amazing artwork with this Diluvian Kraken is another card that has a similar sea monster emerging out of the waters. That's super awesome. Melissa Benson with the horse type character that kind of reminds you of, I said it reminded me of Nightmare in a way. I talked to her a bit about that. Maybe I'll write up a behind the art feature on this card because she gave me some information and she said she didn't see it the same way. It's not really, she explained to me in many ways that it's not like Nightmare from Magic. So, and she's right, it's not exactly, it's just a horse. I was being a little superficial. A horse reminds me of a horse. So, you got Minor Explosion from Tony Sulo. This card is incredible. And if you look at, he has another one called Armageddon. Go look at the Armageddon card on the Collector Art House website, especially the full art version. There's so much going on there. It's absolutely incredible. This Minor Explosion card's amazing artwork by him too. So again, a nice representative sampling of some of the great artists from the game. And let's take a look at the slogan. This is what I want to focus on. I think this is a great improvement, nice, short and sweet and concise. An old school TCG for players with a rich imagination, tactical nerve, and appreciation for hand-painted art. So those are, the key tenets of the game, right? Imaginative. It's a very experiential game is a term I've heard used a few times. Tactical nerve, so it's very strategic. I think the grid-based game gives you a whole realm, no pun intended, of possibilities of how to strategically align your creatures. There's also the strategic aspect of drawing from your spell deck versus the Atlas deck and trying to keep those in balance, really, so you have enough resources to cast your spells and make things happen throughout the realm. And then, whole types of different aspects of strategery, not really a word, but a little different than you get from some of the other games that do not have a grid-centric approach. And then, of course, the appreciation for hand-painted art. Hand-painted art. That's very specific and important wording because there's no digital art in this game. It's all traditionally done, all hand-painted, and that is again, I've said this a few times. When you have these cards in your binder, it's like having an art collection in your binder. It really is, especially if you have the foils with the full art. That's going to be something special and beautiful to have in your binder and flip through and reflect on. And then, of course, an old school TCG. What this game's all about is kind of having that 90s era throwback type of vibe to Magic era, or not just Magic, like some of the early TCGs. Spellfire is another one that I think has a lot of parallels to Sorcery. But it just has that 90s vibe with the classic iconic art that just really pops, draws your attention to a specific focal point. And Eric has mentioned, the vibe he was going for is he wants you to look at the card and just know what it does intuitively, right? And there's not, at the moment, any lore or story behind the game. The game itself is the story. The art is the story. And the gameplay and some of the synergistic mechanics and the flavor text and the typeline text and the card titles, all that plays together to create a very flavorful and unique and special experience. So just wanted to point that out. Something I thought was very interesting from the release. We learned a lot from these releases. These are great updates that they're doing for the Kickstarter. It's not just about where we are in print production, although that's very important. We get cool insights like this thrown in as a sample. I love these images, the little video clips they've done at times. This tells us a lot about the flavor of the game, the development of the game, kind of how the history has evolved, and how this game gets further and further refined into a masterful, in my opinion, offering that we're all going to love and enjoy in a few months when this is out on the streets. So thanks everybody for following along. Again, please like and subscribe. And best way you can help grow the community is to share with your friends. Help the community grow, support each other, and always appreciate your interest. All right, take care.